Hello, I'm Rosie Vision, and welcome to the It Feels Like Magic podcast. This project started off as a YouTube video series where I watched the 4 Kids dub of Winx Club for the very first time. After putting up the first video, I felt like the series would do well as a podcast. I'm still uploading videos to YouTube, so you can watch those if you'd like. But now there's also an audio-only format, so go with whatever works best for you. This will be the second episode of the podcast, and we'll be discussing episode 3 and 4 of the 4 Kids dub of Winx Club, Save the First Dance, and The Voice of Nature. Let's get right into it, shall we?
Watch the dub and open my mind. Believe in 4 Kids. Time to unwind. Can it be true? Let's wait and see if 4 Kids dub can do everything amazing. Rewatching Winx, come join the fun. Rewatching Winx. Let's have some fun. Rewatching Winx.
Okay, before we get into my thoughts on episode 3, Save the First Dance, here's a quick summary of what happens in case you need a refresher. It's the back-to-school dance at Althea, and the boys of Red Fountain are invited. Bloom has been struggling with magic and is unsure of herself. On top of it all, she doesn't have a dress to wear for the dance. Oh my god, whatever will she do? But unbeknownst to the Winx, the Trix are planning to ruin the whole event. The Trix curse the gifts Red Fountain planned to give the Althea fairies. And they're on the hunt for Stella's ring. Luckily, the Winx are able to break the curse with a counterspell at the last moment. Shortly afterwards, Bloom has a showdown with the Trix by herself in order to save Stella's ring. She's finally able to transform for the first time and makes it out okay. And the Winx get to enjoy the rest of the night with no real harm done in the end. And that's pretty much everything you need to know. So let's get into what I thought about the 4 Kids version. Once again, there's some pretty fun dialogue in the 4 Kids version. We get WizGiz impersonating Griselda and calling himself the Queen of Detention. And then, when Stella's trying to help out Bloom because she's struggling with magic, she ends up saying that you're a bigger project than I thought, which, ouch, that kind of hurts. This is completely unrelated to like the 4 Kids version, but I noticed something about the animation itself when Griselda and Faragonda are talking to the students about how there's going to be a back-to-school dance. It pans back to the Althea students in the dining hall, and the expression on their faces, because it's like all simplified, if I remember correctly, they don't have eyebrows or anything. It's just literally circles with dots in them, like SpongeBob style, and they have the emptiest look on their face, and it was just hilarious. I know that it was just due to like budget and time. You can't always spend a huge amount of time on making every single frame of animation look perfect. And the first few seasons were pretty rough, but that was still a hilarious frame. Gonna be jumping around quite a bit here. During that same speech, Faragonda also mentions how she met her husband at the back-to-school dance. I was very confused by that. I know that 4 Kids likes to add stuff to the story, but Faragonda being married kind of makes a whole lot of it doesn't add anything, really, and it makes me question a lot more than it answers things, like, what happened to her husband? Where is he now? And, yeah, I just never saw Faragonda as someone who'd be married, personally. I don't know if that's just me, She kind of just feels like a fairy godmother who's just there. I guess it's kind of interesting giving her a backstory, but now I want to know what the heck happened to her husband and what he was like. But I guess the world will never know. Once we cut to the witches at Cloud Tower as they're planning to ruin the event, we get some interesting music. I kind of bashed on the music a little bit, not only in the first episode of this podcast, but on my YouTube channel when I compared the two different versions of the Halloween's episode. I said that the music was really in your face and distracting. Almost everything gets orchestrated. Like if you walk, bum, 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 literally anything. Blinking, I bet they would even orchestrate super loudly. But although it was a little distracting at the beginning of the episode when they were in class, I felt like in general, these two episodes, the musical score was a lot better. Not only was it less distracting for me, I don't know, maybe I got used to it, but there were also some musical themes that I really liked, including the one that we get to hear at Cloud Tower, which is kind of like what you'd expect stereotypical Halloween-y witch music to sound like, but it fits the vibe of the dub really well, and I like how it sounds. And on top of that, we get a funny little addition to make us relate more to the characters. In order to incentivize the witches to destroy the back-to-school dance, Miss Griffin says that whoever wins for the raffle of ideas on how best to destroy the event wins a gift certificate, which I found pretty darn hilarious. Imagine this happening today, and the prize is just like a $25 gift card to Starbucks. I'm not sure that the reward matches the amount of work that they have to put into all this. And the fact that witches who have magical powers would go through all this trouble just for a gift certificate is it's pretty crazy. As we're watching Bloom try to find a dress, at least I hope that's what it is. I'm sorry if it's not. At some point during this episode, we also hear another 4Kids original song, not the score, but with lyrics and things like that. I don't know what the title is off the top of my head. I believe it's I Wanna Be Where the Girls Are. It's something like that. And this is, I think, the second original 4Kids song. I really like the first one, hence the title of the podcast that I made. But this one I also really liked. I thought it was really cute. It fits well. Especially, it kind of reminds me of the songs that are in the original Italian. But as I already mentioned before, the original Italian, some of those songs in the first few seasons were pretty rough. I have a nostalgic feeling towards them, but they weren't the greatest, whereas I feel like the songs are a bit more polished, at least sound-wise, in the 4Kids version. And then on top of that, during the shopping montage, we hear more of the song, which is actually a rap. And normally, hearing the word rap in children's show, quote-unquote, makes me cringe to no end. Because I've had to sit through a lot of younger programming in recent years, thanks to my youngest sister, unfortunately. And every time they try to be hip by including the rap that kids listen to, it normally does not go well. Not only are the lyrics normally horrendous and have absolutely no substance whatsoever, with really obnoxious rhyming schemes, but the performances are normally so bad. Just makes me want to die. But you'll be happy to know that I was actually okay with the rap in this song. I don't remember the lyrics off the top of my head, unfortunately. I'm sorry. I don't have good short-term memory. And I'm not good with lyrics anyways, but in terms of the performance itself, it actually wasn't bad. Whoever they got to do it actually did a pretty good job considering This was a show aimed at kids and preteens. They didn't need to care at all, but they did, and for that, I am grateful. The rap, fire, it's great. Speaking of the scene where Bloom's trying to get a dress for the dance, there was a change from the original, and I'm not sure how to feel about it. I actually don't think I like this one. Originally, Stella wanted to pay for Bloom's dress that she finally found, but she was stopped by Flora. And Flora's reasoning for this is that if Stella paid for the dress, then Bloom would feel bad about not being able to do it herself, which was a very real moment. And I felt like it added to the dynamics between everyone as well, because it's never really mentioned again for the most part, but Stella is a princess. Her ease of access to things and the amount of money that she's able to spend is on a completely different level to not only the rest of the girls, but especially Bloom, who's just a normal Earth girl. And I thought that moment was good to have in there. But for whatever reason, in the 4Kids version, it was changed. In the 4Kids version, Stella wasn't able to pay because she maxed out her card on the dress that she got for the dance. And yeah, although it's totally a Stella thing to completely max out her credit card given to her by her dad, just for one dress, that is very on brand for her, but it completely takes away from the moment, and I kind of wish that they didn't change it, honestly. Once we get to when the Trix are trying to destroy the dance with their evil plan, we got a golden line from them. I mentioned earlier that I was very surprised that 4Kids seemed to have used the word witch as a euphemism for the B word. We're just gonna call it B from now on because I'm not much of a swearer myself, and better safe than sorry for monetization. But that was completely off-brand for 4Kids, and I thought maybe it was just a coincidence or just a one-off thing. How could they possibly do that again? But according to my comments, it's something that is shown throughout the series that they constantly do. And as proof of it, it happened in this third episode when they're sneaking around beneath Althea. Darcy was complaining about having to walk all this way because her shoes are pinching her or something to that extent. And then I think it was Icy who comments back, "Don't even start with your witching, Darcy," which I guess that proves it. Witch is a euphemism in this universe, and it's kind of really fun. I like it. It's really tongue-in-cheek. It's something that can still be on TV, but when you're older, just kind of makes you laugh out loud when you realize just how much 4Kids tried to censor and things like that for TV suitability, but then they throw in lines like that. Speaking of the Trix, in general, I absolutely adored them. Actually, not even in general. I just adore them. They are the best part of the 4Kids dub. Their voices are great. They have fun lines that are both funny, but also still threatening at the same time. They got the witch thing going on. And in particular, I especially love Darcy's voice. I love how husky it is. It is husky as well in the original Cinelume, but it just doesn't have the same presence. It's not as boomy. I don't know how to describe it, but 4Kids Darcy, voice actor did a great job. Going along with the Trix train, when they curse the gifts that Red Fountain was planning to give to the fairies, they say an incantation, which this is a note that's true for all versions of Winx Club, I believe. The Trix use rhyming incantations in order to cast curses. And then on top of that, the Winx create a counterspell by also having a rhyming incantation as well. And if I remember correctly, this is only something that's in this episode, I believe. And I kind of wish that they brought it back. It's a cute nod to how we see magic in the real world, as in like how it's portrayed in other series. And I just feel like it'd be a fun way to get some cool lines in there. But for whatever reason, the incantations were dropped, and that's just sad. After the eggs are cursed, the Winx try to figure out how they're gonna stop the Trix from doing what they're doing. And then Flora mentions another funny addition that 4Kids added, which was she wanted to cast a spell. But how does she know the spell? Not from school. Why would she learn anything from Althea? No, she learned the spell from Teen Fairy magazine, which really shoving the real world down our throats again for kids. But this was a cute and funny addition, in my opinion. And it's what led to the cute little duck that stalks Icy all the time. So, win-win. Once we get to the dance, there's a throwaway line about Musa. This was something that I already knew, but this is my first time seeing it like actually in the series. Faragonda refers to Musa as a princess, which I can understand why 4Kids did that. There's like a cajillion princesses from what we understand in the first episode of Winx Club, at least. And Musa is one of the only characters who isn't a princess, but I don't know. It just feels weird. She just doesn't, I don't see Musa that way. I mean, for Stella and Layla / Aisha, who are princesses, and I guess Bloom too later, spoilers. Well, Stella and Layla were princesses from the beginning, and really it doesn't impact that much except for when they go back to their home planets. They really just kind of act the way they are. Stella, yes, she's rich and spoiled, but she doesn't have to be a princess to be those things. Whereas with Musa being a princess in the 4Kids version, I don't know, like, maybe it's just because I'm so used to original, but it feels very weird. And on top of that, I also mentioned how I'm not sure how I feel about Lisa Ortiz's voice as Musa in the 4Kids version. Outside of Winx Club, I absolutely adore Lisa Ortiz so much. My favorite thing that she's done would be Lena Inverse from Slayers. And I wasn't aware that she played Icy in the 4Kids version, and I think she did a great job. For Musa, though, it's just so different from what I'm used to. It's kind of giving me whiplash. It's not horrible, but I'm still not completely on board with it right now. As we already know, the day is saved thanks to the Winx Club girls at the very end of it. And I thought the ending for episode 3 was really cute. We got to see Bloom and Sky, who's being disguised right now, and we're calling him Brandon, but we know it's Sky. Sky and Bloom dance together, which isn't unique to the 4Kids version, but they play my current favorite 4Kids song, It Feels Like Magic. Thank God it returned. It fit the scene so well, and even though I've just heard the song for the first time, like last month, I can feel the nostalgia off of this song. I love it a lot, and it was the perfect way to end the episode. That's pretty much all I have to say about the third episode, so let's get into episode 4, The Voice of Nature. Okay, once again, let's give a quick summary so you're up to speed on what happens. The girls have an assignment in Black Mud Swamp. They're told to listen to The Voice of Nature by Palladium. The specialists are supposed to be transporting the troll that attacked Bloom and Stella in Gardenia. However, after the Trix catch wind of its capture, they set out to free it so no one will know what they've been up to. The Winx and Specialists team up to catch the troll and grow closer with one another, but it mysteriously vanishes thanks to the Trix. Okay, summary over. So let's get into some notes that I wrote down. Side note, it's really hard for me to take notes while watching things like this for be it the podcast or for YouTube. I wish that I could just jot down notes after the episode, but I know that if I do that, I'll forget so much. Because as I mentioned before, I have very bad short-term memory for whatever reason. So yeah, I'm forced to take notes as things are going. And I try, this time I took notes on my Chromebook, so I was typing as I was watching. I tried my hardest to type while watching, but every time I was typing, it just took my attention away so bad. And then I was constantly having to pause. It's a pain, but luckily I'm familiar enough with Winx Club where it's not too big an issue. Well, anyways, rant over. So, what did I think about episode 4? Well, let's go point by point a little bit. So we start off the episode with Palladium, and here's yet another change that 4Kids made. I understand why they did it, but I don't know. I kind of like the original because although it's not exactly something that you'd probably want in a kid's show, it kind of adds charm to it because of the fact that, one, they're able to get away with it, and two, I'm pretty sure that things are different in entertainment in Italy, so it probably wasn't that big a deal to them. But what is this change I'm talking about? Has to do with Palladium. In the 4Kids version, they had him be super flustered in the middle of the swamp because he didn't like bugs or anything related to nature, which was supposed to be ironic. And then one of his students points to a bug bite on her leg, and he starts freaking out at the thought of there being bugs around there sucking out people's blood, which was funny, but definitely very different from the original. In the original, Palladium was completely fine. The reason why he got flustered is because, for God knows what reason, all of the students were wearing like short shorts in the middle of a swamp, and the student points pretty far up her leg to show Palladium where she got bit, and he got flustered because of that. And Bloom felt bad for him. And of course, this got completely erased in the 4Kids version. I mean, either way, it's kind of funny. But yeah, that's something that was changed. I can understand why they did it, but change, boo. I'm averse to change, I admit it, but in some cases it works out nicely. Speaking of changes, Palladium's voice in the 4Kids version. Once again, this was one of the things I was kind of a bit negative about in my comparison of the two versions of the Hollow Winx episode. I said that I didn't feel like it fit him. And remember, this is season 2 Palladium. This is after he completely transforms for seemingly no reason. And I felt like his voice fit WizGiz a lot more. It's kind of like squirrely and goes up and down. Sounds a little bit goofy, which when you compare with the way that Palladium looks, felt a little bit off, at least in season 2 to me. But here I actually liked it a lot more. It started to grow on me. I like it. It's endearing, even if it's a little bit goofy, and I feel like it fits his first form a lot better. It is, I still think I'm not going to like it as much once he changes appearance, but I mean, think about it. It's already weird enough that he completely changes from this like wimpy, socially awkward teacher who doesn't look much older than the students to what he becomes later on, and like even his personality changes. He becomes much more confident and snarky and just doesn't take BS from anyone. But on top of all of that, his voice I think, changes in the original. It's been a while. I know it did. I'm pretty sure it did in the Cinelume version. So I guess it's kind of weird that that happened. So I can see why 4Kids kept the voice the same, but it still feels a little off to me that he practically changes into another person, yet his voice is exactly the same. Uh, Another thing I noticed that they changed. It doesn't really add much, but hey, fun fact. Uh, while the Winx are out in the swamp, they are standing in. Actually, I don't know what they're standing in. They're standing in some weird kind of liquid that keeps them almost kind of stuck, I think. And there's bubbles that pop up. And I can't remember exactly what Tekna said in the Cinelume version, but in this version, Tekna thinks that it's, I wrote it down, a subterranean sludge slug and tries to attack it. I have no idea what a subterranean sludge slug is or what it could possibly be doing under there other than just vibing, I guess. But geez, I wonder why Tekna was so against it that she had to attack it. She did say that they're nasty, but I don't know. Sounds kind of like an excuse to me. I don't quite trust Tekna when it comes to nature. Moving ahead a little bit, the Trix learn from Knut about the troll that the specialists are transporting. And during this exchange, we learned that apparently the Trix are in contact with Knut through texting, which I've said it once, I'll say it again. It's hilarious to me. Just the thought that Knut, this big old ogre who like bumbles around and needs glasses to see because he's blind as a bat and he can barely get anything accomplished. Sorry, Knut, we love you. The fact that he'd be holding a little mini phone and texting the Trix. And this is back when I'm pretty sure when this aired, this was back when there was flip phones too. So I bet that'd be even harder for Knut. How the heck would he be punching in all those buttons? Yeah, it's just a funny thought. It'd be great to see that animated. So the more you know, another factoid, the Trix text Knut. And then on the topic of the Trix, we get another great line that I loved from them. They're talking about how they're always breaking the rules, but they don't need any of the teachers knowing just how much they're doing, on top of the little duck Pepe, I think it is, who follows them around. Apparently they're not allowed to have pets, but they're more concerned about the duck than Knut for some reason. Anyways, getting off topic there. While they're talking about how they break all these rules, Stormy replies, "We do it for the greater evil," which it's a corny line, but the delivery and just the show itself, the atmosphere that it gives, it feels perfect. I wouldn't change a thing. Speaking of lines that stood out to me, later on, when the Winx meet with the specialists after their plane crashes as they're transporting the troll, we get a very surprising line from Flora. It took me completely off guard. It was cold. Riven is being Riven and saying how he doesn't need the help of any girls, stinky girls, cootie-filled girls. And then after that exchange and the specialists go off to try to fix their mission, the Winx are trying to decide whether they should go help them or not. And Flora says that the specialists should get back to their assignment and let Riven just deal with the problem. Now, me saying that, it doesn't sound that bad, but I swear, the delivery of the voice actor for Flora when Flora said this line, it pierced through my soul. Normally, Flora has like the most sweet voice, which I praised and I absolutely love. It's great, but she sounded like she was ready to kill Riven during that line, which was really unexpected. And then the tension in the scene just keeps on going and going. Stella, in response to this, as they're fighting about whether they should go help the specialist or not, says, If Riven wants to get eaten, bon appetit, am I right? Oh my god. Yeah, I don't have much to say for that one. The line speaks for itself. Stella doesn't mind if Riven gets eaten. Noted. And as we can tell from that line, Stella is great as always. I think she's probably the best part of like any dub, honestly, in terms of fun lines. It obviously deteriorates later in future seasons, but the first few seasons, she's absolute gold, and we love her. Lines like this are the reason why. Since I haven't talked too much about the specialists, let's dig in there. Sky, I said this before, but I feel like Dan Green's performance for him is literally just Yugi from Yu-Gi-Oh! And I think that still holds true, but as an avid Yu-Gi-Oh! Fan, I don't mind that at all. I feel like he toned it down a little bit from this third and fourth episode. Like before, I said it sounded like he was always shouting for some reason, but that wasn't as big an issue. So good on Dan Green. We love him. I didn't really comment on Timmy's voice last time because I think he only had one line before, but we get to hear him more in this episode. It's pretty high-pitched, which caught me off guard at first, but honestly, it works for him. I have a soft spot for his Sinnoh voice, as I do with a lot of them. But there's nothing wrong with his voice in the 4Kids version. It's fine. And yeah, kind of anticlimactic, but that's about all I have to say. There was a new song in this. I'm not sure what it was called. It didn't stand out to me as much as It Feels Like Magic and the other one with the rap. Oh god, what was it called? One moment. I Wanna Be Where the Girls Are. Yeah, that song was fired. This song, I don't remember anything about it. Maybe it'll grow on me later. We'll see. But the music in the episode itself, like the musical score, the background music, I did really like. It felt whimsical and mysterious and threatening, and it wasn't as distracting as episode 1 and 2. So good on them. Overall, really enjoyed these 2 episodes. It was a fun watch, and like I said before, it feels like I'm rewatching Winx all over again, like for the very first time. Almost as if I'm experiencing it as a completely new viewer, which is absolutely magical. I love it. And I look forward to continuing this series. And that pretty much concludes the episode. Stay tuned for the next one where we'll talk about episodes 4 through 5 of the 4Kids dub. I've never done anything like a podcast before, but I figured I'd give it a shot. It'll be a learning curve, but I also think it'll be a fun journey. If you're on Spotify, be sure to follow the podcast so you know when the next one comes out. I don't have a set schedule, but I'll be trying to get these out twice a month, if I can. You can also follow my Instagram for updates on new episodes at Rosie Vision TV. And that's a wrap. Don't forget to keep a little magic in your life, guys. Bye.